Mark Kramer, the co-author with Professor Michael Porter of the concept of creating shared value, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this important conference on creating shared value in the Dominican Republic. I think you will find over the course of the day that this idea of creating shared value can open new opportunities for businesses, government, and nonprofits alike to find common ground to help address the social and environmental issues that challenge the Dominican Republic, and at the same time to improve the competitiveness of companies in the Dominican Republic to serve their customers there and elsewhere around the world. You know, I'm often asked, how did Professor Porter and I come up with this concept of creating shared value? And our work really began more than 20 years ago when we first began to think about the role of strategy in helping to solve social problems. And our first instinct was to think about the nonprofit sector, to think about charitable foundations, and begin to work with them. But the more we did so, the more we realized that companies have a much bigger impact on social and environmental issues than nonprofits or charities. In fact, they often have a bigger impact than government. Of the 100 largest economic entities in the world today, more than half are companies, not governments. So when you begin to think about how we can tackle social and environmental problems that are at the scale that we face, the answer, one answer, has to be to engage companies. Now, of course, companies have always been involved in being good corporate citizens, in corporate social responsibility, in looking at reducing their environmental impact, in looking at ways that they can contribute to the welfare of the communities where they operate. But companies have typically done that on the periphery or on the side of their business. They've set up a separate charitable giving arm or a separate foundation or a corporate social responsibility unit to help address the social issues that are relevant to the company's business and the communities where it operates. And that's fine, and that's a good thing, and that's an important thing. But it typically touches just a tiny fraction of the resources and capabilities of a company. In the US, for example, most large companies give to charity, but what they give is typically less than 1% of their pre-tax profits. An important amount of money, but a very small amount relative to the scale at which companies operate. Professor Porter and I realized that a great deal of the literature and research about the role of companies in social problems was focused on what companies do wrong, about the friction between successful companies and a successful society. And it really emphasized the idea that companies are causing problems rather than solving them. And of course, to some degree that's true. Companies do cause social and environmental problems from time to time, but there is a much greater opportunity, we believe, for companies to find new ways to make money by actually helping to solve the social and environmental problems of our society. When you think about the resources and innovation and creativity that companies can bring to solving social problems, it is immense. For one thing, they have the expertise, they have the technology, they have the resources to operate at a tremendous scale that most nonprofits, however hard they may work, are not able to operate at. Secondly, if we can find a market-driven solution for a social problem, we can scale it up quickly using traditional sources of investment and debt capital, and we can sustain it without having to raise charitable dollars or impose government taxes. Now, it's true that not every problem can be solved by a shared value approach or a profitable corporate intervention. But the more we can take problems that can be solved that way and address them through shared value, the more we can save the very limited resources we have in philanthropy and in government to address only those problems that cannot be addressed through a shared value solution. So let me take a step back and talk a little bit about the impact of shared value on companies. What we've seen is that companies tend to ignore the social and environmental impacts they have unless there are protests or government laws that force them to confront them. But the result of that is it limits companies' ability to innovate. It limits their awareness of new opportunities and new business models. So to take an example from not too far away, in Peru, there's a company called Intercorp. It's a large, diversified company, one of the largest companies in Peru. And the founder and CEO of that company saw that there were tremendous problems with the educational system in Peru. Children were going to school, but they were not learning well enough to succeed on math and language tests. And so he decided to set up a chain of schools, the Innova schools, but he decided to do it not as a charity, but as a business. And so he hired some of the top consulting firms in the world and literally traveled around the world to find the best attributes of the most successful schools anywhere in the world. And he brought those ideas together to create a very novel school and a novel curriculum, these Innova schools. Each school serves about 1,000 students. The tuition is significant but not overwhelming. It's about $100 to $150 a month. And there is a scholarship program as well. And it is already reaching about 18,000 students in Peru, with the expectation that this will triple in size in the next few years. And the reason that Intercorp is able to do this and grow this is because they identified this as a business opportunity, not a charitable opportunity. So the schools actually deliver a 14% EBITDA. As they grow and become more established, that profit margin will continue to grow. But what that does is enable them to find the capital to open more and more schools. And the students who graduate these schools outperform the public schools and outperform other private schools in Peru substantially on the standardized tests. Now, a traditional company might not have thought about education and fixing the school system as an economic business opportunity. They would have thought of it as something for philanthropy, and they might have given money to a good nonprofit, or they might have done other things to help the local school system. But the odds are they would not have created a situation of academic excellence for tens of thousands of students in Peru on a sustainable fashion. And so the idea of creating shared value is not to replace corporate social responsibility. CSR remains very important, and there will always be things companies need to do to be responsible citizens that are not sources of profit for them. But there is a whole other area that most companies in the world today are still missing, of new economic opportunities, ways to reduce costs in their operations or supply chains, or ways to improve the profitability and to expand into new markets and new products and services by thinking about the social needs that this business serves, and by finding ways to innovate, to create new business models in ways that can help solve social problems and drive the growth and prosperity of the company. So that, in a nutshell, is the essence of creating shared value. And I think it's a very important concept for companies in the Dominican Republic. Certainly the Republic has been battered by hurricanes recently. There are many issues that need to be dealt with to create a healthy, sustainable, prosperous society, and to create a society that enables everyone to participate in its prosperity, that does not further create greater economic inequality. And shared value directs companies to think about the social consequences of their activities and the opportunities they have to solve social problems for profit. So I know you will have a very full and rewarding day today, and I applaud the initiative to create this conference in Dominican Republic, and I very, very much look forward to hearing about the ideas, the innovations, the inspirations, the experiments that come out of the discussions and presentations you have today. And I look forward to following the progress of shared value in the Dominican Republic. Thank you very much.